good job introducing her before Pastor Itwa joins us. So you're welcome
Pastor
once
Itwa
again,
joined
Jumoke.
us.
Okay,
He has
Jumoke,
joined us now.
Yeah.
Pastor Itwa is on.
Yeah, well, you can go ahead and introduce her.
Oh, okay. So go ahead and introduce her. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So as Pastor Sonny has said, we have Hajia Sadatu Mahidi joining us, and she is the General Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative Secretary General. And it's a right-based non-profit advocating for equity and equality of opportunities to directly impact the lives of women and girls. With over 24 years experience in social development work, leading the WRAPA team, she has also served as advisor for Nigeria to the UN CEDAW committee and was also a nominee for its membership in 2006. As a member of Council of Nigerian National Human Rights Commission, and while serving in various capacities, she has first-hand knowledge of the humanitarian crisis in Northeast Nigeria and its impact on women, girls, and other affected vulnerable groups. Within the context of the insurgency, and over the last 12 years, she has deployed her competence in policy dialogue and formulation towards gender and situational analysis in peace and conflict resolution. She has contributed to Nigeria's adoption of the Resolution 1325 and the development of the action plan for its implementation. Her experiences include serving as member deputy secretary, Northern States Governors Forum Committee on Reconciliation, Healing and Security. Through the work of the committee, Sadatu was privileged with the knowledge of the underlying factors and drivers of the conflict, with the recommendations made giving government, stakeholders, and committees a clear path to lasting solution. So I'll stop here and let her continue to talk about her great work. But Pastor Itwa is on, so I would hand over to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed for joining us today in this very, very important conversation. We're talking about Nigeria's security challenges, the impact on women and children. Hajia Sadatu Mahidi, MFR, Secretary General, Women's Rights Advancement Protection Alternative, you are most welcome. Nigeria has been going through a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulty, problems in security, and so on and so forth. And it's affecting not just women and children, it's affecting everywhere. It's affecting farmers, it's affecting herdsmen and all that and all that. I don't know how much work you have done or if you know the background of the insecurity in Nigeria, and if you have an idea of the various hotspots and the difficult areas that are ungoverned and lack the adequate security that we have in Nigeria. So what I'm asking you is to, first of all, give us an idea of the level of insecurity that we have in Nigeria. And secondly, what you think really has brought about this big challenge of insecurity in Nigeria. Hajia.
Thank you very much, Pastor. And I also want to respectfully express my gratitude to the Africa Leadership Group for having me to speak to this very, very important matter, something I have been engaged with since 2009. And hopefully I can bring to the table some of the realities that we live with. First of all, like you said in your opening remarks, security is the mother of it all. No matter how much you have in your bank account, no matter how much you have in your in your kitty in any way, whether you are knowledgeable or otherwise, it is a factor of how much of it can you enjoy, how much it really belongs to you. And so security is number 1 to 10, everything else is number 11. In terms of where we are coming from in Nigeria with the issues of security, I think the drivers that we have seen as a context for insecurity starting from 2009, if you take the context of even before 2009, if you go to the South, where we had the issues of determination, of economic rights, of state and economic rights for the people of the Ogoni and all of that. If you remember, it started with issues of bad governance, people realizing that there is so much around them, yet they are so poor. Then you moved into the North Central, where we began to have skirmishes that were age-old in terms of the farmer-herders clashes, which is a matter of again of land use act, where we had a situation about the grazing grounds and the infringements on it and the tensions that arose. Then you move to the Northeast, where we now grew into Boko Haram as also a product of governance, poverty, the drivers, and then politicization of the voices of some of the youth and some of the people who were behind the early issues surrounding the emergence of Boko Haram. The misnomer about education, the misnomer about who is in control, whether it is faith or it is constitution, all of that built up. And then with time, we now came into the Northwest, where we now have banditry becoming a franchise and an enterprise. And overall, you find that we move then to the Southeast, where we have unknown gunmen. And then obviously in the Southwest, it is tensions that have been old age again, Ifema Modakeke and all of those things. So, in a comprehensive way, one can say we've had pockets of issues that have actually found germane grounds to multiply into what we have today. But most, I think, times people want to align the issues with the issues of governance, resource sharing, and also the feeling of exclusion for people, especially when you come to power sharing. So by and large, we got to grow a culture of apprehension of each other. We lost trust between each other. We amplified those little things that our diversity should have been able to overcome. And then obviously the return to democracy also gave room for voices to be aired. And some of them have actually taken undue advantage of these tensions and these divisions and have come to use them as dividing lines between us and culminating in this. And today, what we have, especially around the issues of abductions, killings in the Southeast, South, Southwest, and all other parts of Nigeria, is just a replication of probably what a normal external aggression may have brought upon us. But this is internal to us. And in the beginnings, one of the reasons why it really festered, especially for the Northeast, is because we came into a situation where our security architecture was not really, I wouldn't want to say trained or conversant with the kind of warfare we found ourselves facing. A small ragtag group, as they were described by one of the Nigerian leaders, now we metamorphosed into a force that has now, enveloped a whole region of the country and have also exported it in several ways. You can remember, if you recall, the replications and the replica effect, the ripple effect in neighboring states and neighboring situations. So by and large, if I were to summarize, Pastor, is to say that unfortunately for us, between 2009 and 2015, we arrived at the doorstep of a keg that had so much in it, and the bubble burst. And that is what we have today. I don't know whether that really tells you as a background. Pastor? Hello? Hello? Yeah.
We may have, yeah, we can hear
Yeah.
you though.
Okay,
I
so
think-
well, I was hoping that he could probably respond to agree or to add more to what he was going to ask me around the issue of the antecedents to where we are today in the insecurity we find Nigeria. But be that as it may, I can actually continue to say that if we say these are the drivers, then what are really the indices of impact? The title today that I've been asked to speak to is the impact of insecurity on women and girls. And this is to say, obviously, insecurity, as was also pointed out, is not just a matter for women and girls or children. It is a matter of people with existing vulnerabilities finding themselves in a frame of assault, of abuse, deprivation, and above all, fear and deprivation in terms of everything that would normally give you peace of mind to go to the farm, to go to school, to do anything you want to without. I recall way back in the early 80s or mid 80s, when we served in Oyo State. My husband served in Oyo State. We could start driving from Ibadan to the north at 7 p.m. without a care in the world that someone will stop us, that someone will ask us for what we are taking, and that someone will even see us and describe us either as Fulani or Hausa or this. So we have effectively lost it. And for women and girls and children in particular, the vulnerabilities that existed well before this situation are only accentuated. The bodily abuse that goes with the conflict around us, the soft approach, or rather, we are the low-hanging fruits, more or less, if you want to say. Women and children are low-hanging fruits. If you look at young girls, they are the ones who go to the stream, where you have the forest and the ungoverned spaces. If it is about firewood with the desertification as well as the climate change issues, it is women who go out there looking for firewood, looking for energy to use. They are also the ones that go out to do farm work to earn little that helps them to keep their families together. And all of this exposes them further. I recall my first contact with the issues of insecurity and the assault on women was when we had Buniadi. And that one was boys, basically boys. Buniadi was the secondary school that was first assaulted by Boko Haram, where the boys were slaughtered, their blood splattered on the walls of their schools, and so many other things. At that time, Nigeria had not even woken up to the gravity of the situation we were facing. Moving on, we then got the Baga incidents, where the craters that were created by the ammunitions that were used by this young man, became the picture of the world, of where we were. The devastation, everything within the parameters of that crater had gone. And fear began. By 2011, there were over 100 and so routes within Borno State that were blocked. So a girl comes out, she's on her own. In fact, the mindset was not for you to even dare. And if you dared, you are game, more or less. So the reality of the impact of insecurity for women and girls can be summarized this way. One, an existing vulnerability only found, insecurity only found an existing vulnerability. So it got, it's all over the world. That's why we have the Rome Statute, whereby, rape was redefined. Other forms of abuses were put in as international war crimes. So women and girls, their body became the arena of war and the temple of abuse within conflict. Between Buniyadi and Chibok, where we got the fell swoop of 279 girls in April 2014 taken away in the night, about 60 of them, dropping from buses from trucks to escape. I think we were at a point where we were moving between denial and allocation. Because if you remember what happened, all the drama and the saga around the reporting and the acceptance that something wrong had happened really pointed to a situation of, an us and them kind of thing. Because for the first maybe 5-6 years of the Boko Haram situation, the rest of Nigeria didn't see it as a challenge. They maybe saw it as something that affected a small group. Then it began to flow, it began to, cascade into other areas and into other issues. Political pundits also got into the frame. And before you knew what was happening, everything had come to a situation of insecurity at the highest level. In fact, at one time, if everybody wants to recall, there was the position where they said they are everywhere. I don't know who remembers that. I think our former president, Jonathan, was one of those who made the statement that they are everywhere. So gradually, a ragtag group in the Northeast, that is, found time and means to become a force. And that force we are still grappling with today. In the South, every effort to douse the tensions and allow that, peace to reign also did not make. Of course, some progress was made. The amnesty program, the entrepreneurship, the NDDC creation, some of these things that happened helped to bring it to a certain level, but it is still there. Now in the Southeast, we have the issues of self-determination, where unknown gunmen come in broad daylight to take away people to the oblivion. In the Northwest, the skirmish for resources in Zamfara and some other parts of Nigeria has also, justified and sustained the skirmishes that, have resulted in abundant abductions. And I don't want to go into the statistics because we all know them, we see them daily on our newspapers, but in particular, schools are the big targets. And this is also coming through because of the alignment of the vision or the mantra of the people who started. That's Boko Haram, meaning education is illegitimate or whatever, Western education in particular. So by and large, Jumoke, what I wanted to, if you had given me my slides, maybe it would help me to move on to the next thing I'm trying to address. Are you there? We're not there, Jumoke. Okay, let me open my own. Okay. So I will continue, Jumoke, while you're looking for it. So my second point, apart from the context and drivers of our insecurity, is about the affirmed vulnerabilities we face. Women and children really face a low status, very, very low, to the extent that we as women's rights activists and as human rights activists have argued with our National Assembly that the place of women and children in our constitution needs to be revisited. We are left to the whims and caprices of various state governments to take laws, policies, and programs that reaffirm our status as equal citizens, that protects us, and that helps us to collectively deliver and contribute to the development of our states, our communities, and our families. And today, as we speak, moving down, using anecdotal numbers, this is not scientific, it is there in the media, exaggerated and whatever. This is the stark reality we face. Every one man you see impacted by insurgency, insecurity, you will have 10 to 15 women and girls, especially unaccompanied minors, who are also impacted. The impact types move from bodily harm, sexual abuse, psychosocial crisis, displacement, and all that comes with it. So who do we hold accountable? Who do we hold accountable? Because at the beginning of this, Pastor was speaking to accountability. A government has a responsibility under our Constitution, Chapter 2 in particular, to be able to provide for our needs and to also protect us as a fundamental right. Chapter 4 describes the various rights. But because some of the things we're looking for example, education, health, and whatnot under the Constitution are not in the justiciable portion of the Constitution, the governments who serve us day in, day out keep getting away with the fact that they're not providing those things. And that brings about the derailment in governance. People become frustrated, people are unhappy, they cannot access basic amenities of life, and they will see affluence being thrown into their eyes, houses that people don't even want to live in, so much that really puts the citizen to the end of the wall. And when that citizen turns around, this is what we have in terms of the forms of insecurity we are witnessing today. Now, people have spoken to this issue. I'm putting it first in terms of what to do. What to do is about what do we do to protect women and girls, women and children? What do we do to ensure that the drivers of conflict, the drivers of this insecurity are addressed? What do we do to ensure that citizens themselves are in a position to take some actions that both protect them and also enables them to access the goodies of life and also to enjoy, like they say, the politicians, the dividends of democracy? But the one that has held everybody's attention in this country and is still going on is the hard choice between self-help and compliance with the law criminalizing ransom payments in the cases of abductions. Because it is in abductions that we have seen the numbers of women, children, girls, and boys highest. If you stop a bus, if Boko Haram or if a non-gunman stop a bus or a vehicle, the more likely is that they will take away the women and the children and leave the men or kill the men. So if we speak to what to do that will help us address this as a nation before we come to women and girls themselves or programs that will help them, is to decommercialize abduction. According to reports, we have reached a point where the game, or rather the abductees, are now a commercial product. One group abducts, sells to another group, that group adds money or value, and then depending on how well off or how expectant the results of the ransom could be, the figure can keep growing up. So probably group A abducts a person, but before the final release, that person may have gone through 4 or 5 different levers. So while relatives are struggling to find how to get back their wards and their people, the law is saying, do not do that. We don't know. Government is in continuous denial about not negotiating with abductors. Institutions are busy denying this. Commercial, commercial actors are also busy, going in between and making some. So in effect, the livelihood, the dignity of citizens that are abducted has become a commercial venture. And with that, we are likely to see a reduction in the numbers. And that is why I say the numbers are not waning. With the way things are going, the numbers are not waning. What then do we need to do? As the numbers do not wane, what can we do within the interim? One of the things we are proposing, please, can you go back to slide, is to treat survivors as a specialized constituency for targeted funding, policy, and programs. The same way the Yar'Adua government decided on doing, or rather, solving the problems in the South-South. We've got to put our thinking caps, empower these survivors, and find creative funding policy and programs that will, one, map them and organize them into an agency that helps them to create voice and become a force to reckon with. Because at some point, the government had no option but to deal with the boys from the creeks. We also think that if the numbers are not waning, as they are growing and as we are recovering, as people are being released or escaping, we need to design interventions that rebuild hope. And education is the first and the second and the 10th, formal and informal education. We've got to teach, particularly the vulnerable ones who have come home with all kinds of tags. I refused to discuss the kind of trauma that we have seen in the Chibok girls who I have been working on since 2015. We have good stories to tell. Some have finished from Yola, some are finishing in the United States, but it is all one thing, education. Give them education because that's the only hope they have. They will carry a scar in their minds forever. But with education, it can help elevate them to grounds that do not keep them under, but bring them above and become, useful citizens of their society. We also need to look at, sustainable economic empowerment, that develops into medium and scale entrepreneurship. This palliative approach, they are released, they are brought to Abuja or taken to some state capital for, psychotherapy, some palliative, and then they are forgotten. Particularly for women, they don't ever get to become normal for another man to look for their hands in marriage. The young girls who were yet to understand what sex is all about become frightened when they're approached by men. The young boys who have been sodomized do become. So you need to find a way of helping them to overcome and also to become, sustainably empowered so that beyond their pain, they are not turned into perpetual beggars or perpetual hands-on receivers. Can you go to the next one, please, Jumoke? Now, the thing also that comes to me for government and communities is to increase protection measures for schools and communities. I remember when General Tiwa Danjuma made a statement during one of the convocations of the universities in the Northeast about self-help, about people being able to organize themselves. The whole country came after him. But today, what do we have? We have communities right now that are working to be resilient, because resilience means you will face up to the fact that government is not in a position to provide every form of protection you require, meaning that you must think inwards. And inwards also means that there will be heroes. Then some people will give up their lives for others to be saved. And that means we need to be able to say to our people that resilience is one of your ways out, apart from education, apart from economic empowerment. And people need to be able to see that working for them. We need to also be able to train them in terms of what resilience means. Resilience includes having to live with the aggressors that you live with, because the insecurity in Nigeria has shown us openly that a lot of the informants are living and embedded within communities. So you have to find your ways of, silting them out and also getting them to face the consequences of their actions. We also have this program around, rehabilitation, absorption of the people who have offended others in terms of what they've done to them. This also needs to be handled very well in terms of protection. You bring them back, the factors that drove them out into the bush remain, and you don't expect it to, or you don't organize a situation where you have a truth and reconciliation forgiving program, and then people are asked to live again with the person who killed my father, with the person who I was looking at killed my mother or my child. Government has to be serious around increasing protection through resilience and empowerment programs that enable attention to be paid to survivors of our insecurity. Please go on. Thank you. Now, at the beginning, I wanted to have Jumoke show us some pictures so that I can carry something around it that informs you the reality that we face. Jumoke, can we have those 5 pictures, please?
Yes, give me a minute. I'm pulling them up.
Okay, then in the interim, I think one of the things that didn't come out in my introduction. Okay, no, you've gone to the 5th picture instead of the last. Yes. So thank you very much, okay. Now this is a typical scene where you see. You don't see a man here. You see young boys, quite okay. You see a young boy at the very right end of the picture, on the right side. You find that in every situation, like I said in one of my slides, for every one man, you would find 10 to 15 women and children. If you count in this picture, you have at least getting to 10 to 15 children, about 3 young boys and 1 young girl, and then maybe around another 10 women. So that's the reality of our situation, meaning that whatever insecurity means to everybody in Nigeria, it is affecting women and children more than anybody. The second one, please. Now, this is a woman who has 10 children, and they are all displaced. And what she does, these are her set of twins who she had within the insecurity, my people. So it means people will continue to produce, but what future are we bestowing on these children? Who is going to be responsible for their education? What kind of children are we going to raise to listen to stories that my father was treated this way, or my father was killed this way by this? And unless we do what we were saying, the models of Gachacha and all of that, what happens to these children? This woman, look at what she is. See her dress. She has 10 of them to cater for. She goes to the market. She collects from where, rice is being sold. She destones it, and then she cooks it for her children. That's when she gets it, and when they are not running from abductors. Yes, the next one, please. Now, this is in Borno State. You can see women and children again. Look at the kind of situation they are in. These are, United Nations Refugees Commission shelters, UNICEF, and all the international development actors. But look at what it is. Within this hut, there is a family of nearly 16, a father-in-law, his wives, a son, 2 sons and his wives and children. And you just don't understand. Their whole dignity is collapsed and, sent to the winds. They sit out here and they are just gazing in front of them. You could take your finger near to their eyes. They may not be seeing you because they are in pensive moods of debased dignity. Thank you. Go to the next one, please. Now, here is a camp where we were doing an exercise, of palliative feeding. But as we were giving them rice and beans and we realized that they were very hungry. So giving them the uncooked rice was really just a beginning. So we bought, this snack, and there were so many of them that we actually regretted. Because we couldn't cope. We were looking for more to buy because the people were there from morning till when we started giving them this small snack, and they were all hungry. So we just said so many mouths to feed with little to ration. Jumoke, the last one, please. It's a video, but I don't want to play it. Now, this is a school in Yobe State where we found these young girls and boys. There are boys on the other side of the class. And the girls in particular, this girl on the left in the front picture was saying she wants to become a medical doctor. I asked her, why do you want to become a medical doctor? She said, so that I can help people who are in need. I said, have you seen somebody who is in need? I was asking her in her language, in Hausa. And she said, yes, she has. Have you ever seen what a doctor does in the hospital? She said, no, my father worked in the hospital before we were driven out, and now we are back. So I want to finish school so that I can become a doctor and help those people who are being killed and who are being maimed every day. So you can see that in spite of everything, resilience and hope remains alive. And it is based on this that I, in particular, would support anything and is supporting everything that gives another opportunity for women and girls who want to take education as a bastion of, resistance to their plight over time. Thank you. Yeah. Pastor Itua, I think we can ask our questions. I think I have done as much as I can, but if you have questions you want me to respond to, I will do that before maybe you give a microphone to your participants. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry I had network issues here.
Network.
And I had to change. Yeah.
He wants to do a security challenge.
It's a security challenge. And I had to change the mobile server, whatever it is, Yeah, I really wanted to. What do you think? I don't know if somebody.
You are muted, Pastor. Unmute yourself. Pastor, you are muted.
Maybe he's frozen. Maybe his network is frozen.
If you go to the chat, Jumoke, before Pastor comes back, maybe we could do something while we're waiting for him.
Yeah. So there are a few questions here. The question from Femi Olowe, what is the maternal rate in these refugee camps? That's one question. And then another question, what's the current status of human trafficking with these vulnerable population? Also, can we elaborate on more social economic determinants? So those are the two questions. The third question is the same.
Okay. Well, in terms of maternal rates, as long as there are men and women together, they will continue having children. And they're having children on these camps. In fact, at one point, I think it was in Bolari camp, the statistics were that almost every month there is a celebration of birth to the rate of nearly 10 to 25. Now, some of these births or maternal developments of, giving birth to children in that situation, remember that, again, it is women who are raped. It is women who have their husbands. It is women who are also having to give sex for money. So if, perchance, a woman who needs to get food has to give her body to get food for her children, becomes pregnant, she will definitely be pregnant, and nobody will really help her out. And the question of even stopping out to say, I don't want the baby or something like that doesn't really occur. So definitely there are statistics, and they vary depending on who you are talking to and depending on the context. They prefer to discuss those ones that are from husbands of women who are with their husbands in the same camp, or marriages that are contracted in the camp. So yes, maternal rates are still high.
Okay. Pastor Sonny, do you have any other questions before we open up?
No, there was a question also, a second question, Jumoke.
That was the same. It was lumped in with the one from the human trafficking. Okay, the second question, what's the current status of human trafficking with this vulnerable population? And can we also elaborate on social economic determinants? That was the second question.
Trafficking is almost a byproduct of the abductions. Like I said earlier on, these survivors or these abductees keep being, taken from. At one point, the Chibok girls were said to be in countries outside of Nigeria. either trafficked by their abductors or trafficked by people who have brought them over. So trafficking, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I understand, is something that is ongoing. However, it is only being fed by the abductions. You abduct 10, 20 people, you don't know what to do with them. Probably you move out of the frame, you leave them, they find their way, or they are trafficked, or they are abducted again by another group from another splinter group. Remember that most of these abductors have splinter groups and also have their own tensions, which is something that at one point the Nigerian government was able to explore to see how to decimate the rank and file of the Boko Haram dissidents. In terms of economic, what is called, one of the fallouts that we have had from camp life, because camp life has become another culture. A lot of men now, or a lot of men and household heads in particular, have become more or less debased in terms of their dignity, because they move from one camp to another collecting palliatives. There are cards, there are these distribution cards that they are issued, and some of them have become so entitled that they are not even willing to pursue economic activities. And even if they are willing to, we who are outside of camps, how are we coping with the economy? Talk less of being there. So there are a lot of, almost a trade by barter situation in some instances where people have to trade one thing to get another. Now, you want to say, that's why when I proposed in my slides, when we get these survivors out, we need to decipher their thinking, to bring back dignity, to ensure that they see themselves as human beings that deserve respect. Because by and large, the camp culture has deprived them even of that. Thank you, Jumoke. I saw another question around GBV.
Yes, but I wanted to ask Pastor Sonny if he had anything to contribute before we open up for questions.
Okay.
Because while we are waiting for Pastor Itwa to rejoin, I know he's having network issues because of where he is.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Jumoke. And thank you very much, Hajia Sadat Mahdi. You have spoken very well. And listening to you and having been an observer in this thing that has been happening for the last almost 15 years in this country, we come up with a feeling that it keeps degenerating year after year. And it seems as if the government themselves have done what they think they can, and everybody has given up. Because all this idea of, taking care of the terrorists, taking care of victims, people have been in IDP camps for 5 years upwards. Everybody is exhausted. Is there ever going to be a way out? And people are making money out of this, including IDRC, all those that are supposing to be helping from either the UNHCR, from all the various organizations. And so everybody, it has become a racketing kind of thing. I don't know what your experience have been and what you think, in terms of how we are handling this. We still have unmanned spaces. Even people in IDP camp are being attacked. They are killed, they are taken away, and we keep telling stories. This is 10 years, 15 years on. So is there going to be a way out? All right. And that would enter my last question, which is, you spoke about increased protection for communities, and you spoke about what General Danjuma said. Do you support states and local government policing, properly armed, properly kitted? Have we come to that level now?
Thank you very much, Pastor. And sorry, I can't also bring back my video because of the same problem you have. I don't want to fall into your trap. Now, in terms of, is there going to be an end? I want to take it from that perspective. Honestly, Pastor, like you rightly pointed, I don't see an end in the near future, sadly. Why do I say so? The same reasons you adduced and those I adduced. One, it has become a commercialized venture. There are merchants of conflict. There are beneficiaries. Would you believe at one time there were reports and stories and conspiracy theories of the fact that even the people in the Northeast did not want this thing to end because there are benefactors and benefiting parties. Take, for example, if you go to any of the northern states, outside of Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, or the rent you would pay for a 3-bedroom house, because of this conflict, because of this insecurity, in the Northwest, it went down, completely down. But in the Northeast, while the international agencies and all other endeavors were on, we saw the prices hike. A house that ordinarily, even in Abuja, would go for 2 million, suddenly is 4 million because you are taking a risk staying there. And the owner of the house probably has survived as it's in Abuja, and he or she is happy enough to rent it out to the international agencies or to those who are there as actors, national actors like us. So in effect, what we are saying is that it has become so juicy for some people, even negotiators for abductees. So until we decommercialize abduction and also emphasize protection and resilience, Pastor, there were also stories and reports of communities that have decided rather than go and live a camp life, they would die on their land in their houses. Because for them, it is worse when they go to the camps. And some of them ended up, or are still doing it, paying these dues and fees to insurgents rather than come to camps. So if peace means living with them, fetching water on Monday and they fetching water on Tuesday, people were happy or are happy enough. Because people have put it in a box and said, to what extent do we benefit moving away from where we are? Somehow, somewhat, some of us will still be killed. Camps have been attacked, although we don't have a very high incidence report of reportage of incidents happening within the camp, but they are there. Secondly, if you also look at the dynamics around security financing in this country, we know all that has happened in the last 10 years. Security financing has also become a cash cow. We had a point at which, within the rank and file of the security architecture, if you have posted to Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, that's the base state. We call them the base states. If you're posted there and you don't become rich, people say you never become rich because there are so many avenues. If you go now to some of the points where commercial activities were reigning in the Northeast, take, for example, if you go to the Chad Basin, where the fishing life there was enough to sustain the economy, according to the current vice president, when he was in the bank, in Zenith Bank, the turnover from Monday market in Borno State was bigger than some of the budgets of some of the smaller states in this country. Today, the commercial activities in those places are done 50-50, some by security actors. This is the report we read. So as long as there is a value of money, a currency that is attached to either stopping it, supporting the survivors, or whatever, so long would it continue. It's a sad reality, but we have to face it. So that is why we keep saying, how do we decommercialize insecurity? Before the advent of Boko Haram and known gunmen, you have merchants of conflict who will come to Abuja or to go to Lagos then and say, I'm the only one who can talk to my people. He collects the cash and goes home, and they don't hear nothing, which is why some of the agitations took a very bad turn in the South at some point. So as long as we have a currency attachment to these issues, then so long. So how does government do it, like you asked? One of the things is to look inwards, and this is what brings us to your question around community policing. Whether we do formal or informal, we are already there. But what does it mean? What does it portend? Why is government afraid of it? Partially and truly, I also believe it is not something we should really play with. We can find ways of arranging securities within the state, but to dismantle the central authority of policing and create structures that will now become, monsters. Because you arm an uneducated person, you arm an educated person, the way they use the weapons after the conflict has gone will be different. So that fear is a reality. If we decide we want to go community policing, we should know the consequences and should also address the risks that come with it. I don't have a problem with people standing up and being resilient. There are various ways in which we can create resilience. Early warning systems. Today, we sit in communities where nobody really is conscious about the security around his own or her own house. We've got to wake up to the fact that that loitering man needs to address us. That new person in our community, we need to know who he is or who she is. So there are soft approaches that we can do around policing ourselves, but formalizing it, we should be very wary of the consequences it has. Right now, various governments are, arming groups and giving them different names. Give us another 3-4 years, unless we decommercialize insecurity, this same group of people will come back to hunt us. This is my humble view. I stand to be corrected, but this is my understanding of what happens when you arm and you don't formalize the engagement of that person, and you leave him or her to having the training, the what, and of course, we also have the problem of the proliferation of small arms within our communities. So we don't want to arrive at a situation where everyone unto himself and me against my neighbor.
Yeah,
so I think those
just
were
before
things,
you go, is that not why
Yes.
we are saying that it should be a formal structure? The reason why everyone is calling their various group different names is because it has not been formalized and there have been no constitutional or legislative backing. If we formalize it, and then we can increase the number, because like you said, there are thousands of kilometers of unmanned spaces on ungoverned places in Nigeria. And we have manpower all over the place.
Human resource.
Human resource. Well, sorry, human resource.
Gender
Why can't we
activists.
recruit 100,000 into the police, for example?
Excellent.
I was listening to, just a minute, I was listening to the senator from Borno State that's always on television. What's his name? And he was in charge of...
Ndume, you mean? Ali Ndume.
Yeah, Ali Ndume. He said he was being told that there will be no place to train them if they recruit up to 10,000. And I said, what kind of talk is that? People that are at war are not dying as much as we are dying in Nigeria. During war, they recruited 100,000 people in 1 month. They trained them and sent them to the field. We have been on this journey for more than 10 years, and we cannot recruit 100,000. And he's saying that they say there's no place to train them. That didn't make sense to me. Okay, you wanted to respond to something. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. It's in the area of this issue of formal recruitment.
Yes.
I agree with you that given our population, given our land mass size, having to recruit, to govern the spaces or to protect or to provide security in those spaces, yes, would be a prudent measure. But it is the same argument, Pastor, that people bring when women's rights activists say, include women, increase representation for women as equal citizens so that your country will be working on 2 legs instead of 1 leg. It is the same thinking that it will be costly. They keep saying it is costly, it has its challenges, and like I have said, I fear the risks of non-formalization. If you formalize and you go back, we had regional policing before, didn't we? We had some extent of regional policing. In other climes, in the United States, it's not as if they have a single, what is called vertical authority for policing. Every state has its policing powers and policing force. So we need to go back to the drawing table, look at our constitution, and this is not the argument around restructuring. It is about what is workable for us. And if we find room to formalize, finance, and control to protect ourselves from the vagaries of what will come, then so be it. So be it. But we've got to be very careful, because if our financing of the security sector in this country is what we have today, I don't know, when you recruit 10,000 police in Zamfara, in Oyo, in Ibad, I mean in Enugu, and you don't have the resources to buy arms for them, to give them their allowances, to pay for them, to look after their own when they are killed. In our insecure context today, the widows of the fallen heroes are struggling to survive along with us. Now, how many of us want to see that happen? So I agree with you, Pastor, that it can be formal and it should be formalized so that we don't go into the risks I'm afraid of. Number two, every state has a peculiarity in terms of what is the insecurity it is grappling with. That is what should be addressed, because it is not a one shoe fits all. We have various reasons, which I discussed at the beginning of this conversation, for the tensions that have metamorphosed into the insecurity we are suffering today. So let every context, design its policing mechanism, and then let some authority or some financing authority be vested in those states or at a central level. But definitely, Pastor, I agree with you that yes, it is possible, we can do it, but let us also be very careful. I also think I agree with you when you say Senator Ndume's position about training. The space in between Yobe and Borno State, if you can secure it, it's enough to train 1 million people. If it is about training, I think there is more to it than just this. With all due respect and some civility, it is just about what picture are you painting, and to what extent do you benefit from what is ongoing, and what do you lose by what will come? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Jumoke, I think we can take questions from...
Okay, we have about 3 hands up, and we have a few questions in the chat. So Pastor Itwa is trying to join back in. So we'll probably take the first couple of questions and see if he has any questions. So we have Pastor Funke Awolowo. Please go ahead and ask your question. We've asked you to unmute, and then we have Dan Emma and then Olu. Pastor Funke, please go ahead and ask your question.
All right, thank you. Good evening. That's very interesting, the unfolding. Ajia, we appreciate all that you're saying right now. What I'm going to say is that I remember the Second World War. The women used their sexual power actually to win the war. And I'm thinking, somebody said, there's a Chinese proverb that when you apply the same thinking, then one appears to be like a mad person when you continually repeat the same thing that is not working or solving the problem. I'm going to call on the militancy of the women, call for the militancy of the women to fight back. I remember 2 stories of women, a young lady, very petite. She was telling me how her own husband will beat her up and rape her repeatedly. And she said she had all this, she used to do, is it taekwondo or whatever? So she had the
I can do spirit.
Pardon? Excuse me. That she was practicing those Chinese kind of self-defense and all that, but she did not apply it until one day it appeared that her husband was about to kill her. She fought back, and the man was so disgusted and afraid, actually, and she was able to resist. A second story I heard like that, somebody was in somebody's car, and the man tried to strip her, and she fought back. What am I saying? Yes, they're facing guns and all that, but there has to be a thinking. That in the Second World War, it was called the seductive generation, where the women used their sexual prowess to defend themselves. I feel our women, education is not enough. There must be tact and there must be strategy, and it must come from within. You know, we're talking of community policing and all that. They must be ready. They must come with strategy. Those women must learn to fight back. And I've not heard of any kind of female militancy. You know, women have to be trained. You know, I did a write-up when the Chibok girls were arrested. Remember that these girls were going to school. They were not uneducated girls, but they were, I asked, is there anything that could have prepared those young girls for what they faced? Because you see, 16 is a very crucial age, and we must be, as parents, we must prepare because the world is changing. And I did a bit of follow-up on those girls, and I saw that some of them, you know, in going back to America to do this, they learned more, they were the better for it. Not everybody will end up being dysfunctional because of these experiences. And I feel that you need to connect. There's so many women that have gone through rape that has overcome, and they're pastors. I know of a pastor lady, I went to City of David, and she told us her experience. She's not dysfunctional today, but she's there to empower many women. We need to call in all this, how women can defend themselves when they come to these schools, how, you know, even when they start living among them, because you see, government is not ready to do half of the things we expect them to do. And therefore, there must be training from within. And I don't see that. I see a surrender to what is happening. And women, unfortunately, were so vulnerable, but at the same time, this calls for a little bit of training. Oshibajo said something. He said, these people that are coming to kill, rape, and all that, they are not spirits. That means we need to sit down and start thinking. If they are not spirits, if they are human beings like you and I, then we must sit down and think and strategize and then involve the government. That's my take. And I want to hear your contribution because you are the one who is on the camps. You know, we're just trying to think with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So before you take that, Pastor Itwa is back in, and so we have 4 more hands up. I don't know if he has want to follow up in the conversation you guys had before he dropped. Mr. President.
I think we should just go on. Don't let me interrupt the flow.
Okay.
Maybe when people finish asking their questions, I can come back.
All right.
Okay.
So we have that one comment from Pastor Funke. Usually we'll take like 2 or 3 together. So if we can take Dan, Emma, and then Ulu, and then you can group them together. So can we have, Mr. Dan, please go ahead and ask your question. If you can please keep it, summarize it, we would really appreciate that so we can take as many hands as possible. We've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you so much, Sister Jumoke, for this opportunity. And thank you, Ajia, for making this one happen today. And thank you, Pastor Itua, for being here. Most of the discussion that Sister Jumoke invited me for, especially the last one that we had, I'm going to take on from there because Pastor Itua encouraged us that we should organize rather than trying to agonize. And organizing, I mean, I'm one of those ones that actually organize, so that we can intervene in the ID camp. But the question today, from what Ajia was saying, is that we are beginning to realize or to accept the fact that both non-state and state actors are actually benefiting from this. Why do I say that? When we organize ourselves and we try to intervene, try to put something, build something in the camp, we had a partner who is, from the United States, a mayor of one city in the United States, who actually is collaborating with us to build schools in the ID camp. One is in Abuja. And, recently we discovered that even that IDP camp is not protected. And even the state actors, like the government, is trying to go there and actually even bring the schools that they are building in the camp down. that is the state that is supposed to protect them. And the reason why this school is actually established in this camp is because, the next generation has been, stripped off of the opportunities to even have education, the basic education, like primary school education. So we try to organize ourselves to intervene, but we don't see any protection or any encouragement, even from the state actors. That's number one. Number two, even the IDP camps that are even built, the structures, they are nets, and these are just shacks and nets that are even built there. And when we were trying to, put this in structure, we connected the European Union humanitarian, subsector of that organization. And they told us that their concentration is the Northeast. But we said, okay, you can actually build, a camp, to protect and preserve those people that are displaced right there in the war front. That idea is just to separate the camp, from there. And he agreed with us that even those camps that are built there in the Northeast are subjected to attack over and over. That even there and there in the camps that children and even women are being adopted from there in the camp. So my question now is that, what is the protection for the camp that are being built there? Because if they are built a camp and the state is supposed to protect them, and there is no protection, and people are coming, to adopt children and women from there, this does not encourage, the people that are coming with the intervention, organizing to build camps. So my question is that, what is the guarantee for these people that are organized, that are coming to build camp, putting schools there, putting community health centers there? What is the protection that you have them to do that? That's my question.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir. So we'll take one more hand, and I have those questions written down for you. Mr. Olu, please go ahead and ask your question. We've asked you to unmute.
All right, thank you very much, Ajia, for your sincere enlightenment today. So I don't have questions, and many of what I wanted to say have been said. So the business of insecurity is something that we need to unpack. The second part of it is the feeling of entitlement we now get with establishing, so to speak, development agencies all over. So once there's conflict somewhere, we then establish a development commission, and you don't see any improvement. I wonder why nobody's even talking about the Middle Belt Development Commission yet. So you see that the amnesty, pardon, and all of those seem to be that there's more than meets the eye in that regard. Now, so my comments. Now, the last thing for me, I'll build on what Pastor Awolowo spoke about. And I looked at it immediately you started to talk. It will interest you that 47% of voters every election cycle are women. So if the women decide that we are going to vote differently, that should make some impact. We have women leaders in all the political parties and all of that. What are they doing? The women are those who vote. We have advocacy groups, yourself inclusive. We have Bring Back Our Girls, advocacy groups championed by women. So maybe that's where we should concentrate efforts to say the women should take back this power. Okay, for those who are insurgents, they have mothers. Some of them have wives. Okay, so maybe women have some kind of power that they don't even realize that they have yet. And I think that is where we must start talking about the solution. All those interventions and all of that, for me, it's looking for solution instead of going to the root of the problem. So until we address the root, and for me, prevention, it is still about our values. It's about the sincerity of purpose. You can't just attack insecurity by looking to armed groups and all of that. Can we go back to value system that ensure that we are our brother's keepers? So primarily, please let us look at empowering women to be able to ask the questions. The wife of the president is a woman. Many deputy governors are women. What is happening with them? Can they? I give an example. Onari Duke, the wife of the former governor of Cross River State, she said her husband was rude to a commissioner, and she said to him, "You are not sleeping at home tonight, except you go back and apologize." And Donald Duke had to go and make that apology before he would sleep at home that night. So it's about time that women should understand the power that they wield, and we start to build that capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olu, for your passionate contribution. So, Hajia, we have those two questions. Do you want me to read them out, or you have them from Pastor Funke,
Yeah.
the summary. Okay.
Yeah, the summary from Funke is about militancy of the women to fight back,
Yes, ma'am.
using the power of, I also had recommended that we train them to defense techniques. I think I had discussed that. And then she was talking about the formal and informal agency of women. If you recall, Pastor Funke Aolo, the agency of women was demonstrated first in 1929 by the Benin, the women who stood against the taxes imposed by. So women have that capacity. If we go to Liberia, if we go to Sierra Leone, if we go to we see the agency of women. However, and God forbid, like I always say when I make this example, do we need this kind of thing to to put women on pressure? There is what is called the concept of positive deviance. That is, you do the wrong so that the right can happen. Of course, two wrongs don't make a right, I agree. But there is a way you do something out of the box while keeping the box in view to gain new insights and also to gain new powers. So if women in this country can put down the diversities that divide us and only look at our wrapper, sorry, not my own organizational name, but what binds us. When you talk of GBV, it is irrespective of whether you're a Hausa woman, Igbo woman, or Yoruba woman. When you speak of poverty, it is irrespective of who you are in terms of your education. We all go to the same market. When you talk of the deprivations that you suffer in employment and so on, it is still the same. So why is it that those little things, except for faith, which is a major thing, why would we allow people to use the majority of things that we can downplay and put ourselves? Bishify me has a saying, where is your wrapper? That thing is to say, where are those common things that we share, that we can bring forward, organize ourselves? When I spoke about organizing, mapping and organizing survivors, it was about the power that survivors will have. They have seen the worst. They cannot see more. So you flip it and get them to turn it into a power that helps them to face up, demand accountability, and also push for protection. Now, I think what Pastor needs to hear is that militancy as a word does not really sit down with change. If you use only militancy without strategies and tact, you end up suffering the same thing that we had. We have history of movements in this country. One of the most beautiful movements that has resulted in things that we celebrate today is the Not Too Young to Run movement. It didn't employ militancy, but it employed numbers, which is what Olu is saying. Flip your numbers, organize yourselves. Let us put down the elitist approach that women in the cities see women in the rural areas as different. We all are the same. The man in the village will slap his wife and get away with it, so will the man in Abuja do, because there are no consequences. So as long as women do not organize around the agency of number, around the agency of pain, and around the agency of what we have. You just gave the example of the governor who had to go back and apologize. Are there subtle ways? Because remember, again, you spoke to values. We have certain values in faith, in culture, and in even the way we exhibit our shenanigans. Now, we've got to start from there. What are those values that we hold dear, that maybe are around religion, that is immutable, is coming from the books of faith, and we cannot change it, but we can interpret it right and also get people to understand it and do it right? Because a lot of times what we have is misrepresentation of what the text of faith are saying to us. So if we can get women to flip on the agency of numbers, the agency of common pain, and the agency of the fact that we run the business, we run the world. We run the world. We've got to make it a mantra. We've got to make it a mantra. We've got to push back on people who are saying we cannot do much. We are 50-50 in this country. 49.7 is almost 50, as far as I'm concerned. So yes, Olu, I agree with you. Numbers matter. But how do we flip those numbers? When we were fighting the Sharia cause in Rapa, we tried to get everybody on board. But some of our sisters said, no, you are fighting against something I believe is right. I said, no, what we are fighting is the right of these women in Islam, in religion, in Sharia, to be given legal representation. When they are found wrong, then they can face the consequences of their actions. Because generally in Nigeria, what we have as a problem is there are no consequences for our deviations. You beat a traffic light after paying your taxes, and the government will tell you they did traffic light with your tax. In Nigeria, you have a husband killing his wife, but the culture in that says if it is in the night, it is okay. She just refused to go to his bed. So it's okay because he has paid and has perpetual. I mean, give me a break, for goodness sake. So coming back to you, Olu, coming back to Dan, and coming back to Sister Funke, Pastor Funke, it is all about what do we want to see? Where do we want to go? How do we want to go? Who is losing? Who is gaining? Like I said, everything about change and shift in our climate is about what is it for me? What do I lose? What do I gain? The power dynamics we have within patriarchy can be dismantled. They are being dismantled. I married into a culture that is similar to mine, but today I see a shift. When I got there 45 years ago, it didn't matter if a girl went to secondary school because she will still secure a husband. But today, she will secure a husband. If she cannot add to the pot soup, she has a different treatment from the wife who can do so. So where is the equity? Where is the good conscience? So it is about what can I bring to the table? We've got to empower women to see themselves as contributors, to see a common agency, that we need to run from Lagos to Sokoto, that we need to run from Enugu to Abakaliki. I mean, to what is it called? Across the country. We see ourselves as common. And that positive deviance, some of us must give up a price. Some of us must pay a price, both as women and as men who believe in the agency of women. People like Olu, I expect to see you with a banner. Not to just say it to me in a webinar. I expect a pastor like our president to take it up and lead the change. And this will happen. We need to protect women and girls and children. They are the bane of, they are the ones who are suffering the insurgents, the insecurity more than anybody. We all suffer it, but we are suffering it more. And we can change the dynamics. We can call to account the people we elect. Yes, you say, why wouldn't we use our numbers in politics? Still, the few men that remain will still guide and monitor those. If you empower me economically, and I know I don't have to wait for you for the pot soup for my children to eat, they know who is paying the pot soup. Is it not in a culture in this country that you marry a woman and you give her a capital? If she likes, let her send her children to school. If she doesn't, let her know. I believe you know all what I'm saying. It's in this country. So let us see the agency of women and see what we can do. Someone has just posted something to say our value system has gone. Yes, it has gone. Because we no longer see ourselves as one. We also don't see our pain as common. And most importantly, we are busy grappling for material gains. Thank you. And take the next one, please.
Thank you. So we're going to take the last three hands that are up, and then we'll begin to wrap up as I hand over to Mr. President. I'm sorry, Dr. Wale, we have three hands up. We'll take Mr. Charles Obin, we'll take Juliet, and Natua's question. So please go ahead, Mr. Charles, with your question. I've asked you to unmute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your passionate plea and passionate presentation. I was taken aback to note that most of the numbers and most of the presentation was centered around the Northeast. The reason that was a bit troubling in a way, this is not a criticism of what you are doing, but maybe a little critique here. Only because the last administration that ruled for 8 years or 8 years plus came to the United Nations and talked about how backward the Northeast was, and they were given a bunch of money to go and improve the lives of the people in the Northeast. that is where most of the kidnapping and most of the atrocities are still being committed today. Does it speak well to what was, if you will, presented to the world? So my question to you is, what type of partnerships do you have in place to expose the evil that you have discussed here today, to expose this evil more broadly to the world, both at the UN and other places? Because I mean, this is a fight that others have to seriously get involved in. So I'm just wondering if you are working with other partners that can help with this. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take the last hand. I believe the other hand that was up dropped. So Natwa, can we have you ask your question? Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Natwa. Yeah, we've asked you to unmute. Please unmute yourself.
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Yes, and thank you very much for this opportunity. I think we all know the problem, and the problem is massive because we all send our children to school. We want to see them back at the end of the day. But when at the end of the day, the situation changes and the children have been abducted, then it is a massive situation. No parent will sit and stare on that. Now, having said that, we need solutions. And I think the massiveness of the situation calls for all hands on deck solution. This is not a situation where it's only for women or for children or for this. It is the whole country to come to terms with it and say, no more, enough is enough. We are tired, we are fed up. This must stop and stop now. So how do we do it? It is from governmental. President must stand and stay, because if the president is not standing to stay on this, then there is no presidency. Because if part of the country is having this massive problem, and this is massive, when women are treated like that, why? What have they done? Being born a woman has become a crime. What is this? It's nasty. And we don't want to take it sitting down. So I think, in a nutshell, it must start from the very top. Everybody's hands must be on it. Who knows who knows where, what the people are doing, the police, the army, every institution that be there must have this thing solved. And I think that is what I can contribute to it. I think it's all hands on. I mean, if the whole Africa must even come together to solve this, we've got to do it. And that is it. That is what I have to contribute.
Thank you very much, my sister. I think you're speaking all our hearts. I'm going to take Dr. Wale Okediro. Please go ahead, sir. And that would be the last hand we take. Okay. I know, Juliet, you were in earlier on. If you can just keep it quick, I'll take you. I'll give you 30 seconds. Go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Ajia, and the other people who have commented on this very important topic. My questions, I have two questions. The first is, what do we do to women who are also abetting insurgency? We have women who have been used as suicide bombers, and we have women who have been caught supplying ammunition, food, and sometimes prostitutes to the insurgents. How do we handle women against women? The second is also the report about some development partners who, in the course of their so-called humanitarian services, have also been abetting insurgency. And sometimes the excuse is that their duty is to save lives, whether the lives are those of victims or perpetrators of insurgency. These are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you want to take all those, or should I add the last one from Juliet?
You can, Jumoke.
Okay.
You can.
Juliet, please go ahead. If you can keep it to 30 seconds, would appreciate that.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, my president. Good evening, the ALG. Good evening, the guest. Wonderful, wonderful exposure. Now, I have a lot of things to say, but I have to cut it short because of time. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask is to help curb this kidnapping. Is there an action these girls or women should take to avoid they've kidnapped? Like, what I mean is maybe they have something like a gadget that will alert the police or the community in such a case so that they can come out and then save them. Then another one is, I don't know how true it is, but please, madam, do you believe that these bandits, they are sponsored by the government? I heard a rumor like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ma. We'll take those and then hand over to.
Okay. So just quickly to go back to the first speaker who was speaking about the need to broaden the scope for accountability, to have the international community wade in to, help us, hold our leaders accountable around the issues of maybe financing for the end of this menace. We have reached a point where we could almost say, physician, heal thyself. And to say also that all the hue and cry about international law and about international interventions, they have come to be held with some pinch of salt. There are countries right now who probably, if they get into some situation, may not necessarily be interested in international support, because the same entities that created these international legal frameworks have been seen to fail in some instances and can only hold others accountable, but not themselves. Now, the world is bigger than it was yesterday in terms of numbers and technology. Technology has exposed the back of a lot of governments. So while not holding brief for any government, and while not also failing, or rather giving up on holding government accountable, I think we need to be also circumspect in terms of what we are willing to have others do for us. We must be able to do some things internally for ourselves. There are things we can handle. Our value system was ours before they came to colonize us. What did we throw away that is still good? What can we do away that is bad? This does not need, like late Nikki Toby would say, he said, we don't need anybody to come from the United Nations and say to us that it is bad to wash the body of a woman and give, a dead man and give his wife to drink. What it means is that there are issues that can be conformed or can be solved by international voice. Remember also that no matter how much international voices are brought to bear, there is the issue of sovereignty. Every nation has a right and also a dignity of its sovereignty. So to the extent they can bring money, to the extent they can have latitude, there's also room for the country to maneuver and for citizens to also push back. I remember, again, like I said, my introduction did not really say what I was in the Northeast or what I am. I have worked under the Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative, where we saw brass tacks what international development actors were doing. There was a time the Borno State people actually rejected and said they do not want them. There was a time there was an altercation between the government and, the international development actors and the security architecture. But they came with this same excuse that was bandied, that they stand for both aggressor and and abuse. So please let us see ourselves first as being able to take some steps without really opening ourselves to the chagrin of others. That's for me as far as I'm concerned. So yes, international law good. Yes, international belonging good, but do something before anybody else you call to your rescue. The second thing about the proposal for all hands on deck, yes, we have said it. I've said it even in my presentation. This is not a one-person job. It is an everybody's job, because everybody is a beneficiary and everybody is a loser, man, woman, or youth. Why we emphasize on women in this conversation is because we are asked, how does it impact on women more than on men and children? That's why we're emphasizing, but it is true, and I agree with you absolutely that it is an everybody's business. It is everybody's business that Mama is well. If Mama is sick, everybody is sick. As such, Mama now needs to turn around, get her sisters, her daughters, her granddaughters to work with others so that we ensure that we bring into the fold those men like Olu who are willing, all the Jibrins of the world, all the Utives of the world, all the Wises of the world. These are development men who know the
Okay. Haji, I think it's time to turn off your video. You may want to turn off your video now. We can't hear. We've lost your sound. Okay, she's frozen at the moment, but I'm sure she'll come back in shortly. We've lost her. Over to you, sir. Mr. President, while she tries to join, I'm sure she'll join back in shortly.
Well, it's been a very, very enlightening and interesting conversation, but further a little bit frightening because it keeps looking as though a lot of us are a bit helpless in Nigeria, and we don't really know how to help ourselves. You know, we've really done Nigeria a lot of injustice, especially those of us who call ourselves the elite or the educated ones. Because what we've simply done over the last 25 years, since 1999, is to give up the leadership space to people who are totally, totally unqualified to lead, even from the grassroots up onto the areas of governance, because we have disrespected, and let me use that word, disrespected politics. We have looked down on the political process. We have thought that what we should do is to concentrate on our businesses and our homes and our money. And we have yielded the political space to people who are totally unqualified and totally uninterested in governance. And they have now seized that space and they have turned themselves into a cabal, into a club, and into an association, which is now strongly and vociferously resisting any form of what they consider to be intrusion from any enlightened class. You cannot believe, neither can you understand the level of this morass. And what has happened is that some warlords have seized the space, taking ownership of political structures and control of a largely innocent and ignorant population, and misinform them and manipulate them, take hold of their votes, use violence and aggression, and then finally resort to rigging. This is where we are. It's a serious thing. And we need to take it very, very seriously. If we're going to take back Nigeria, which means putting an end to this insecurity and everything we see, everybody that considers themselves educated and enlightened or thinks that they're interested in the good of Nigeria simply need to go back to the grassroots, go back to the local governments, go back to the wards, go back into political parties, go back into the political process and begin to build our political process from bottom up and gradually displace the owners of that process right now. And I mean literally the owners of that process. The second thing, of course, is that organizations like ALG and other well-meaning organizations need to stop speaking from the top and speaking to the converted or the educated. They need to redirect their conversations and their speeches and their information and their enlightenment to the hapless, innocent, ignorant, grassroots people who don't understand good from bad, right from wrong, good governance from bad governance, and who are being misled by a bunch of people. They need to be educated, enlightened, informed, encouraged, have their minds renewed. That's where the effort must be directed at. That's where the energy must be directed at. And that is why our social responsibility component of ALG is the most important and the most critical. Everything else that we're doing at the top is conversation. The issue is who will bail the cat. And that's why I keep asking people who come on this program, what do we do? Very few people have an answer because they don't know what to do. The only thing to do is to reorientate, redirect, and re-educate the political class and the innocent voters who will not be able to vote right until they are better informed. They're now being induced by money, induced by false propaganda, induced by all manners of things. And because of that inducement and that control and that fear and that intimidation, they listen to his master's voice. So the solution to the problems are the same. You have banditry because you have a leadership that does not know anything, that does not care, that is even in their interest, self-serving interest, to have these upheavals and then create a fund which they can again benefit from in the pretense to fight the upheaval. And that's where we are at this point in time. I don't know if Ajia is back on at this point in time. I don't know if this question has been asked, but maybe I can try and then she can answer the question and take it with her closing remarks. And then we can close for today. But I think, Ajia, we have a lot of work to do together. And I think one day again, you might be back on this platform to shed further light into certain things. But the question I have for you is that a lot of our insecurity, I believe, is being instigated and possibly sponsored by a certain group of people. Are these groups, are they known, identifiable, and can they be approached and spoken to, or are they far gone that we must look for another kind of solution? Because a lot of the things that the people use are expensive things. They must be sponsored and financed by somebody. How can a bandit be using an AK-47? Is either stolen or somebody's paying for it, and so on and so forth. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and you can then take that with your closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. And I believe by your words, I am probably inducted now into the ALG, and I feel honored. In terms of the question.
Thank you for accepting our induction. God bless you. There's a lot of work to do,
Sir, I don't know whether I was being overboard to say so, but I believe you were inviting me, and this is where I have been in since 1974 as a fresh person in the university. I've been into this about leadership in Nigeria. And my mentors are still on the floor, and I believe there is still a little more I can add and contribute to. But coming back to the issue of,
we will work together, definitely. We will.
So coming back to our issue at hand, sir, I think somebody earlier on tried to raise the matter about, do we know who is behind our wars? And that was the picture I tried to paint in the beginning, sir. When I said, or when I referred to, lingering tensions that have been explored and exploited by those who have seen benefit in causing chaos, feeding conflict, and now even commercializing the pain of trafficking, abduction, gender-based violence, and all of that. So what it means is to have maybe even a study by ALG. Who are they? And what did they want from the beginning? And what do they want now? And what did they get? When will they be saturated, or when will they be satisfied? When will enough be enough for them? Because whether we like it or not, in every climb, when you have a deregulation of this nature, there must be somebody's interest that is being protected. When conflict, or rather when degeneration of security reared its head in Zamfara, many people in this country didn't know that there was massive mineral resources hidden in Zamfara state. And people have questioned and have posited, is it possible that the interest of those who are exploring and getting those resources at risk? So therefore, have they mobilized to say to these people who are there innocently helping them to milk the resources, look, you have to do something, otherwise we can lose out. We already are well made. We're just helping you to have a livelihood. If you don't stand up to it, they will send you out of this forest, come and take everything. It took having the industry bill for us to even, the petroleum industry bill, to even realize that there were more pockets of this God-given resource, which many people and which in many countries, discovery of has been a bane for them. So, sir, you are right to say that we need to identify, or if we know them, to call them out. Somebody said a government that has just finished its service had said it knows them, but it has never declared their identity to Nigerians. What would it take for us to get their identity? What kind of role would our intelligentsia communities play? What will they benefit if we get these people exposed? And when they are exposed, would we be able to hold them accountable? Can they pay for the damages we have suffered? These are all questions that can be answered through some form of research, at least so that we even satisfy ourselves that we made the effort at discovering who is at the backyard of our pain and suffering. And even if we do that, are they people we can engage? No, we cannot engage them. We have to make them realize that they have to listen to us. When you engage a person, it presupposes that he or she believes that there is a conversation you can have with him to see or with her. But these people have interests that are superior in their view to our collective interest. As such, they will continue to protect themselves. They will continue to fuel and sponsor and finance discord in any form, because the forms of discord are many and multiple. We need to be able to think out of the box. First of all, determine how to even identify them, and then call them out, and then hold them accountable. It's not a task that you and me alone can do. It is not a task that ALG or any platform can do alone. We need to agree as Nigerians that we are tired of them. They cannot be one. We are 200 million or so. They are not up to 20 million. Why can't we sieve them out? What is it that they are protecting that we are not looking at? What is it that they are interested in that is superior to our peace and to our livelihoods. We must be able to have the courage and conviction to say they must be seen and they must be held accountable. So having said that, Mr. President, I believe strongly that groups like ALG, there are so many groups, need to come together also, because when we operate in silos, again, the impact is limited. When we had the Save Nigeria group, it wasn't one group. It's not as if it's the best group. When we started the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, we never envisaged it would be one of the longest platforms for agitation in this country. It is a platform that was able to even transit to get it to the roots, to get committed Nigerians to remain on it irrespective of their social class. So we need to coalesce, have the groups of people like ALG and others agree to come to terms with the need to put synergy across our work and also put our resources in several baskets and pockets to be able to go to the bottom of this problem. They are not spirits, they are human beings. Some of them we will get. When we get some of them will be afraid and stop doing what they are doing, or at least reduce it. So with God in control and with the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians who have been bastardized, may God give us the courage and conviction to go after these people. Thank you very much, Mr. President and ALG. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. We're truly grateful to God that He made this meeting possible. I'll be asking Jumoke to discuss further with you, and I'll be requesting that she please arranges a private meeting for us so that we can look at other areas of working together and cooperation and bringing a lot of the challenges of Nigeria to an end. Give our love and regards to your family, and may the Lord bless you and strengthen you in Jesus. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, President. Thank you so much, Jumoke, and your team. Jumoke knows what happened to bring me here. Thank you so much, Jumoke.
Where are you based? Are
I
you
hope
in
I
Abuja?
delivered.
Are you in Maiduguri, or where are you?
No, I'm in Abuja, sir. The corporate headquarters of RAPA is in Abuja.
Okay, all right. Okay, no
Thank
problem.
you.
We will see you soon by God's grace.
Thank you, by the grace of God.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Just to thank everyone again for being here this evening. I think this has been a really wonderful session, very illuminating, very educative. And I think we're on the right track. I think Ajay has also given us, Jumoke, some work to do in ALG. Maybe look for these people who are behind a lot of these things, or maybe it's an RNI instruction, but we have to find them and we have to begin to see what to do. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day and a brilliant weekend ahead. God bless you.
Thank you. And I also just wanted to mention, thank you so much, Ajay. I know how to get you. So I know how to get you. So I'll definitely be following up with you. But I also wanted to mention and to thank everyone that contributed to our fan. Part of what we're doing is about last week we were able to reach out to IDP camps in Funtua, Wasa. About 200 vulnerable persons were reached, and that's part of what Mr. President was saying, that is our social responsibility. As we go into these communities, we don't just want to go talk about citizens' responsibility. We want to meet them at the point of their need as well. So that was an entry into some of these camps to understand the plight of those in those camps, what their needs are. So that's part of what we're doing at Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation, and we'll be partnering with other organizations in that space to continue to give us more insight, because nothing is, if we don't understand what the problem is, we are not going to be able to come up with recommendations or resolutions. And we are continuing the conversation, as Mr. President said, with RNI, which is a sister organization. And so we'll keep everyone posted. This is not a conversation that is going to go away. This is not a one-off discussion. This is something that we are going to continue. And we are taking it to the diaspora space as well. There are international communities that keep funding this. What can we do as diasporans to also influence legislations or policies that can help put a stop to it? So we'll send out that invitation on that conversation. We're partnering with other diaspora organizations to continue to amplify this conversation. It's very, very sad, but we all have to put all hands on deck. We have to keep working towards it. Thank you. Thank you, Ajay. I know you don't like titles, but I can't call you anything else but that. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll definitely be in touch. I'll set up a time for you to meet with Mr. President, arrange a Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Jumoke, and I look forward to that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. So I put a
Thank
form
you.
in there, ALG form. Please go ahead and complete that if you would like to be engaged with the organization. Critical mass, we have to build the numbers. And so it's all hands on deck. If you don't have that link, I'm going to repost. Please complete it and we'll be in touch with you and let you know how you can be engaged with initiatives like this and other initiatives that we have at ALG.
Thank you, Jumoke. I'll go off to break my fast.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Back at
Bye,
the Shanra.
everyone. Thank you.
All right.
Back at-
Take care.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Good evening, everyone. Good night. God bless. Pastor Olu? Okay. Thank you.